So I'm creating this video to cover a small number of topics. I'm going to introduce each of those topics, and then I'm going to talk a little bit more about each of those topics. My goal with this video is to help other people who are struggling with student loan debt um, and struggling with debt in general, who have or will have to face bankruptcy or collection agencies and problems with their credit, worrying whether or not they will ever be able to buy a house, or if they have one, they're going to lose it. Um, my goal is to help create awareness among this group of people, which is unfortunately millions of people in our country right now. Create awareness so that they understand, one, this is a massive problem. You are not alone. Please do not resort to suicide. Please do not fall into depression and despair. This is not your fault. And to empower people to realize what tools they might have as far as people to contact, people to complain to, strategies to work on, and things of that nature. So I have been through absolute hell with Navient Student Loan Company and SallieMae Student Loan Company. And my family had to file bankruptcy, Chapter 7, which finalized in June or July of 2017. Today is April 3rd, 2018. So another quick goal in this is to try and deeply, deeply warn and discourage anyone from ever borrowing money to try and get an education. You should seek out scholarships, grants, things that are free. You should seek out online programs or in-school programs that are inexpensive, free, or extremely affordable. If you can't pay for it as you go, it costs too much, and you need to come up with a different strategy. So part of my concern with the way the student loan debt crisis is going along in the United States is that the companies that are loaning money to students are doing this in a very data calculated, manipulative, predatory way. It's very intentional. There's multiple class action lawsuits being brought against Navient right now. There have been others brought against them in the past. And in fact, some of the lawsuits that are being brought against them currently, there is a list of grievances and complaints, and every single accusation being made against them is something that they have committed against me personally. And so I am currently in the process of trying to contact the different attorney generals that are handling these lawsuits and find out how can I get more involved. And it's just, it's astounding. In the past, when I would try to openly talk about this issue, I felt deeply ashamed. I was deeply ashamed and embarrassed. I felt like I was just this fool that had been misled and taken advantage of during a time in my life when I was under intense emotional, physical, medical stresses, and was in a circumstance where I didn't have anyone giving me good advice. I was inexperienced. I was desperate. And in fact, I had multiple people who were experienced giving me extremely life-destroying, future-destroying bad advice. So that was what kind of created my situation and millions of other people's situations. And yeah, so let's just get on with it here. I've created a website. It's called hopingformiracles.com. And right now, the focus of that website is documenting my personal experience battling the student loan corporations, despite all of the wrongdoing that they have implemented upon me and millions of others. So I thought today I would make a video to kind of summarize the beginning of this particular part of my battle. So when I filed for bankruptcy, Chapter 7, and it finalized in the summer of 2017, I was not allowed to have my student loan debt dismissed. About half of my student loan debt is considered federal, and about half of it is considered private, but it's all owned and managed by Navient, and it also used to all be with SallieMae. And SallieMae, I think, is a sister company of Navient, so they basically just sent my loans over to Navient. So the loans were not dismissed. All of my other debts were dismissed. Now, the reason for filing for bankruptcy was because after talking to various attorneys in free phone consultations, talking to various bankers and financial advisors in free phone consultations, I came to the realization that in the midst of my multiple surgeries and extreme medical and health battle, which was long-term and at a peak, with stage 4 advanced endometriosis, which had obliterated my internal organs in some areas. I had growths on multiple organs. I had to have organs removed. I had ruptures of cysts and ended up having internal bleeding repeatedly. I had to go to ERs repeatedly. You name it, I was going through it. And it was 10 years of misdiagnosis, followed by 2 full years of 3 major surgeries. And it was a terrifying nightmare, which I feared would never end, but just basically never gave up, only because I thought to myself, if there is any tiny chance, even though I was incapable of even imagining that, how that would be possible, but if there was any tiny chance that someday my health would be even partially restored, that I might be able to build a better future for my daughter. And that was the only reason I didn't just kill myself, honestly, because the suffering was so long-term, so excruciating, so terrifying, so life-destroying. I mean, I could not finish my education. I couldn't work at any job where I was respected or treated well or paid well. I couldn't spend the time and happy time, just enjoying quality family time with my daughter the way I wanted to. I spent a lot of my time sick, writhing in pain, crying in fear. And it was just living hell. My life had become a living hell. And it was an absolute nightmare. So my illness became so severe that there was a period of 13 months where I went from working very sporadically to not able to work at all. And because I had been self-employed for about a decade, there was no way for me to get unemployment benefits of any sort. I had looked into disability benefits, although I didn't know anything about how that stuff worked. And it was a never-ending rabbit hole of getting nowhere and accomplishing nothing. So that was never able to help me. And not to mention, in the middle of all this, I was desperately ill. So it was like trying to fight in a battle, but someone has tied your arms and your legs behind your back. It was just impossible. So prayer and God and reading as much as I could about my condition and just anything I could read, that was really the only thing that kept me hanging on, hoping that things would get better. So those circumstances, combined with the events that had happened prior to my surgeries. I had a major surgery in November 2015. I had major surgery in November 2016. And then I had another major surgery in June of 2017. So my bankruptcy was in the process of happening while I was having surgery, again for the third time. And then it finalized after my surgery, about a month later. So prior to me finally getting diagnosed, during the 10 years leading up to my diagnosis, I was a single mother. I received no child support ever from my daughter's biological father. The biggest reason for that being that he was incredibly emotionally abusive during our relationship. I had to escape him essentially. And I was advised that because he had threatened physical harm to me multiple times, including while I was pregnant, and that he had had public records of him having restraining orders brought against him by other women who he had hit, that he had admitted to me violence against other women, and I had witnessed him commit violence against other people. It was in my best interest to just forget about ever trying to pursue child support for my daughter, because doing so would put us both in danger. I believe that wholeheartedly. I still believe it to this day. I pray that that man is bettering himself. But I've done some research on him and what's happened to him since then. And anyway, I won't get into naming names on that issue. But that was a large factor in my financial situation. You know, I chose to love and keep and give life to my child. And she has been the center of my universe ever since. And I wouldn't have it any other way. But I think it's very honorable that I'm a very, very good, loving mother, despite all of the horrible things that have happened to me, all of the horrible things that have been done to me. So during this journey of being a single mother and trying to cope with my student loans, I had to move a lot. And the reason I had to move a lot was because bad things happen to young women who live alone with small children. You become an easy target and people prey on you. And that was what happened to me. And I'm going to go over a quick history of my the various residences that I kept without giving you specific street addresses, and tell you a little bit about what I experienced at each of these places where I lived with my child. Okay, so I started out living with family. There was a tiny bedroom I was staying in while I was pregnant, very tiny, with a broken window that could not be opened for fresh air. On the opposite side of the wall where I slept, there was a washing machine, a dryer, a door that entered into the house, and a heating and air unit which was not functioning properly. So as you can imagine, there was a lot of noise, you know, just invading that room. There was never peace. There was never quiet. There was never solitude. There wasn't fresh air. There wasn't ever a true sense of privacy or solitude. It was horrible. It was miserable. And I was thankful to not be completely homeless, but I was also extremely stressed because I knew that the baby growing inside of me was going to be coming out of me, and it was going to need a room to live in as well. And as it turned out, once she was born, her crib was crammed in a little nook right beside my bed, and I rarely ever slept, and I became extremely ill as a result of that. So eventually, at some point, I started dating a gentleman who was a police officer and who rented a house with another police officer while I was on a waiting list for government housing. The living situation there was far from ideal, but I was really, really desperate. And I was trying to just not give up on living. Um, and when I lived there, the bed was broken and leaned at a big angle. I remember oftentimes I would choose to sleep on the floor beside my daughter, um, because that was actually more comfortable than trying to sleep in the bed that was there. Um, and then I got a call while I was there one day, telling me that there were a couple of people ahead of me still on the waiting list for the government housing I was seeking. And I begged and pleaded and cried and explained to them my situation and how desperate I was. Um, and they said, well, this is government housing, but we privately manage our government housing. We think we can scoot you up. We have a unit that's ready today. It's in bad condition, but if you're comfortable accepting it, we'll let you move into it. I went and visited with my daughter, who was always with me, and accepted the unit. So at this point, I thought, you know, maybe this would be a way for me to try and figure things out. I had managed to get a job in the midst of all this, and was supposed to start shortly after the move-in uh, that day. So the only belongings I really had at that point were my clothes and my daughter's clothes and some toiletry items. So everything I owned was in the vehicle that I owned at that time. Um, and we um, we moved in, um, and my daughter, I discovered, had food allergies. And after I stopped breastfeeding her, which was right around the time when we moved into the government housing, I started giving her formula. And this was the formula that the government said I had to give her with the WIC vouchers and food stamps and all that. So um, I'd give her the formula and she would get sick. She'd get, sometimes she would get red bumps all over around her mouth. She would cry constantly all the time, like she was in pain. It was horrific. It was terrifying. But I could not breastfeed her anymore. I breastfed her for 7 months. And I was extremely thin. I was underweight. At one point, I was on the verge of losing consciousness because I was so underweight, and just struggling with my health. And it turned out later to be a combination of things. But um, living there was just a terrifying nightmare. At first, it was a peaceful transition, but it quickly turned into a terrifying nightmare. So essentially what happened there was I was battling to get WIC to allow me to get a formula called Nutramigen, because this was advised by my daughter's pediatrician, who was in another town, because the government health insurance that my daughter had, but I was no longer allowed to access because mothers don't matter, was they were refusing to modify her WIC vouchers to cover the Nutramigen, even though her pediatrician had recommended it. I often didn't have gas money to leave the apartment. I had to put up with maintenance men there that would come into my apartment without knocking. They would come into my apartment when I wasn't there and move things around. They would come into my apartment when I was there without knocking. There were times I came home and discovered multiple men in my apartment while holding my child, my infant child, and was just terrified. There were times I came home and discovered dishes in my sink that were not mine. And then a week or two later would see one of the maintenance men in the parking area, and they would make some kind of joke about how they had left me some new dishes. It was basically a constant living in constant terror and fear of would this escalate? Would I be sexually assaulted, or worse? Would something happen to my child? It was difficult to sleep. It was difficult to eat. It was difficult to breathe. And then it got worse. One evening, some new residents moved into the apartment directly above mine. And they would get drunk, have a party, and the party would end with the male resident beating and raping the female resident. I could hear all of it. I could hear her screaming and begging for help. I could hear her screaming and begging for her life. I could hear her screaming and crying while he was raping her. I could hear her body being slammed against the wall and the floor above me. I would call the police. I would call the land managers and the maintenance men, and they would come, and then they would leave, and nothing would change, and it would happen again, and it would happen again. Then finally, the third time that it happened, the police came, and there was gunfire, and a policeman rushed into my apartment and grabbed me and my daughter, and he instructed me to crouch down in the corner of my kitchen and hold her body in front of mine. And he said that this is the spot where you're least likely to get hit by a bullet. And we squatted there until the fire stopped. And not only was I now terrified that the people above me clearly had guns while they were drunk and beating and raping one another, but I was terrified that they would suspect that I was the person who had called the police and retaliate against me. So I was extremely traumatized by the events. And for about 2 weeks, I did not leave my apartment or open the door or any of the windows. I couldn't bring myself to. I would start shaking. My heart rate would go completely crazy. And then finally, I ran totally out of food and had to leave to get food. And it was one of the hardest things I've ever done at that point in my life. And again, I was struggling with my health. So I ended up through an acquaintance bumping into an old high school boyfriend. And he had been through some rough times, but he seemed to be doing better. And we rekindled our friendship and thought we fell in love and decided we were going to try to build a life together despite all the difficulties he had faced and all the difficulties I had faced. And for a little while, it seemed very hopeful. His family was very kind and emotionally supportive. And they were very doubtful, but they tried to be positive, and that was very comforting at the time. And then we got married, and we came home. We literally came home from the courthouse from getting married because we didn't have money for a big wedding, and that wasn't something we were interested in doing anyway. I came home from the courthouse with my daughter in my arms, and there was a notice on my door to my apartment, and it was an eviction notice. I had never had any complaints brought against me. I had never been notified of any complaints brought against me, but one of the maintenance men stopped me in the parking area and made a comment about that I was not allowed to get married without permission. So what it was really going on there was I was being kicked out because I was no longer someone that they could target with sexual harassment. Another fun tidbit about when I was living there was that at one point in time, I had tried to complain to the main office about maintenance men who had been stealing my mail and going through my mail and coming into my apartment when they weren't supposed to. And 2 maintenance men came into my apartment and said that it was time to spray for bugs. and they proceeded to take a container with a spray nozzle and spray pesticide chemicals all over all of my clean dishes, all over everything in my kitchen. I had no bugs in my apartment at this point in time, mind you. I had not requested anyone to spray. I actually asked them, please don't spray. I was using a type of pest control preventative method that was recommended to be safe in the home for my child. They refused to respect my wishes, but they sprayed chemicals all over all of my clean dishes in my kitchen, including the baby bottles, and just all over everything. And I spent the next week just trying desperately to replace things that they had contaminated, scrub and wash things that I thought might be safe to scrub and wash and keep, wash things that they had, put poison all over. It was just an absolute nightmare. So after the eviction notice, I contacted the main office. Our goal was to get out of there anyway, but we weren't financially ready yet. I found out that by law they had to give us 30 days. I notified the main office to please respect our legal rights, to peacefully give us 30 days and not to invade our privacy during that time. And we left before the 30 days was up. So we moved into another apartment in a slightly different area. And at this particular place, here's what I went through. The landlord there was a very kind man. And I, in some ways, respected him very much, although he desperately neglected his property and desperately neglected to manage the people that were in his property. It was easy to move in there quickly because the rent was cheap and they did no background, no credit checks, but he wasn't doing due diligence as far as trying to monitor who he was putting into those buildings. So I was surrounded by what I discovered were gang members and ex-felons and some people that were on the run from the law. While I lived there, my husband at that time started very, very heavily using drugs again. And I caught him using drugs and being unfaithful in the parking lot. So knowing he needed help, I contacted his family. And I said, he needs help. He can't stay here. He's putting my daughter and me in danger. I'm so sorry that this has happened. I've done everything that I can, but I cannot put my daughter's life in danger because he's putting us in danger. And I said, some of the neighbors have threatened to call the police. If you want to get him into a rehab facility, now is the chance. You need to come over and get him. I can't do anything for him, So his parents came and basically got him. And luckily they got there before the police did. So after I did that for him, tried to save him from prison and give him a chance to go to rehab, and asked him to go live with his parents, he decided to retaliate against me by having our power turned off during one of the hottest summers on record. And so I had to fight the utility company to get the bill in my name and not turn it off because I had been paying it and I had proof that I had been paying it. And he also stole my car, which I didn't know that he was the one that stole it until many months later when it was finally found. And when it was returned to my family, I went to inspect the vehicle and I found a set of keys in the ignition, and they had his identifying information right there on the keys. I knew it was him. And it turned out he had stolen another vehicle after that vehicle had broken down and went to prison for it. So things I dealt with while I lived at that address once he was gone was the the building I lived in was intensely infested with rats, with spiders, with centipedes, um, with roaches. That was something I was constantly battling. I became a very good handy woman while living there. I managed to eradicate the pests, um, and patch up over 30 holes in walls and baseboards. I painted the apartments. I refurbished the cabinet area in the kitchen, um, and disconnected a lot of electrical outlets that were being exposed to leaking water pipes in the ceiling that posed a fire hazard. I did a lot of work while I was there. I changed locks myself. I did all kinds of repairs, just endless, countless things. Um, and I did all that while dealing with neighbors that were selling drugs, that were selling guns. At one time, I came home from a grocery store, and I had my daughter in my arms. I had a bag of groceries in my other hand, and there was a man standing in my living room. And I said, "What are you doing? Will you please leave? Please don't hurt me." And I said, whatever you want, just tell me what it is. Just, I just want my daughter to be safe, please, whatever you want. He begged me not to call the police. I promised that I wouldn't. I realized I knew who he was. He was someone I saw coming and going from one of my neighbors' apartments on a regular basis. They had a child together, which they later lost custody of because they left it in a parking lot while they were both passed out and high. And the child fell down a hill into the road. That was what was in the newspaper. So, anyway, this guy was in my apartment, and he literally said to me, "I broke into your apartment while you were gone. I crawled in through the window in the back. I wanted to steal your TV, but you don't have one." He was going to steal my TV and sell it, but I did not have one. So I gave him, I think, maybe $10. I gave him some baby food for his child and some clothes my daughter had outgrown for his child, and asked him to leave and never come back again. I said, "If you're going to hurt and steal, can you please not do it to a poor single mother that's just trying to stay alive and is alone and trying to get by?" But I was an easy target. So a couple months later, I was carjacked by him and his girlfriend and some old lady. I think it was one of their mothers. They forced me to drive them while my daughter was in the car to do a drug deal. They didn't have a car, and they needed to do a drug deal. So at threat of my life and my daughter's life, I had to drive these people around. And after they were done with me, I went back in and just had to proceed on with my life as though it had never happened. Yeah. So eventually, the maintenance men situation at that building got to be a really serious problem as well. There was the first guy that was a maintenance guy there. Well, there were two maintenance men when I moved in there. One of them was this African American gentleman who lived there with his wife and children, and they were absolute angels. I credit his wife with helping me discover Christian radio, because that has really helped me through a lot of hard times. But they were nice people. The other maintenance man was a very troubled, strange individual. He would often be wandering around in the parking lot drunk. He was the person that was sent to my apartment to help fix something if something was broken. That's part of the reason why I became so incredibly handy and self-sufficient, was to avoid that terrifying situation. He would make comments to me in the parking lot about how he wanted to eat my pussy, and other vulgar things, while I was holding my daughter. Eventually he moved, and a new maintenance man moved in, and this guy was even more terrifying. He would say strange things to me in the parking lot. He would come and stand outside of my front door and just sit down, like by my front door. Um, he was just staring at me and watching me all the time. You know, I I wanted to be able to sit in a chair and get some sun in front of my door with my child. I wanted to be able to come and go to the grocery store and just do things I needed to do like any other normal person without being stalked. It just wasn't possible. On multiple occasions, he would stand outside my door and I would try to leave with my daughter to go to the grocery, and he would kind of corner me against the brick wall and block my way to walk and show me pieces of bone that he had carved objects out of. And one time he shoved one of them into my hand and was telling me to feel it. And I called the police and complained. Nothing ever got done. Nothing was ever accomplished. Um, and Also, while I lived there, a acquaintance of a friend of mine, who I had known for about 7 or 8 months, one evening had called me and asked to stop by. And I had talked to this gentleman on the phone a few times about his girlfriend, and how in love they were, and it was like this really sweet thing. So he wanted to stop by and say hello, and I was so terrified of people. It was very rare for me to really even have a phone conversation or to have a visitor ever. But I thought, I really trusted this person. And so he stopped by to visit for a few minutes. And as soon as I opened the door and said hello, I realized something was deeply, deeply wrong. He was heavily drugged and intoxicated. He threw me on the floor. He started to try and take my clothes off. And I realized that whatever kind of drugs he was on, it was slowing his reaction time. So after trying to fight him off and realizing I wasn't strong enough, I went limp, and I decided that if I just went limp for a minute or two and then tried to break away suddenly, that his reaction time might not be as fast as mine, and I could get to my phone and dial 911, which I did. And then I was screaming and yelling, telling him to get out. My daughter was in the apartment at this time, asleep in her bed. I was terrified. I didn't know if he would hurt her or kill one of us or both of us. I kept screaming at him to get out of the apartment. He wouldn't get out. Finally, he did. He took the remote control to a small old television I had at that point in time, and threw it into the yard and said, "I have your remote control." And this is when I knew that this guy was like really on a lot of drugs, because it just made no sense to do that. He was saying I needed to come outside and get my remote control. So anyway, while the police were coming, I had asked them to please send a female officer to my residence. I did not want a male officer to be alone with me and my daughter in the apartment. I had been through too much. The woman who answered on 911 happened to be the mother of a young lady I went to school with growing up. And she was incredibly kind and comforting in the midst of the situation. So the police came, and I was informed that a male officer was going to be sent and that the female officer had pulled them over. And because he was at this point fleeing in a vehicle with some friends of his. And I said, "I know this man is on drugs. I know he's intoxicated. I know they have possession of illegal drugs in the vehicle. Please search them and at least put him in jail on drug charges. I cannot bear an attempted rape court case. I can't bear it. I don't have it in me. It's going to be my word against his. and I have a small child I'm raising alone with no child support. I can't handle this. They informed me that they let him go. They didn't charge him with public intoxication. They didn't search the vehicle. They didn't search him or any of the people that he was with, even though they were all clearly on drugs and in possession of drugs. They just let him go. And I asked the officer, the male officer, to leave. He wouldn't. After begging and pleading for a long period of time, he finally left. And then the man who tried to rape me called me and harassed me repeatedly throughout the night. So, yeah, that happened. And between all the things I had experienced there, obviously my goal was to move. And the place where I moved after this was a, oh, I skipped a place where I lived in between the government housing and, or no, which order was this? Before I lived at this hellhole. No, that was where I was at. It was right after this. Okay, yeah. All right, let me change the order of these right here. Okay. So after this, I moved into a townhouse that was close to the airport. I had lived there once many years prior, for a brief period of time. And there was sometimes problems with the noise from a train because it was right across from some train tracks. And then, yeah, so whenever I went to look at the apartment, or the townhouse rather, I was really desperate to get out of the place I was in, as you can imagine. But I also knew I didn't want to leave one hellhole for another hellhole. I asked the landlord about the noise from the train. I said, do you know how often the train runs? Because it's very loud, it shakes the building. And I was very concerned about that. But I thought surely he wouldn't be renting this place out if it was not livable. I was wrong. He told me, I will never forget this. The landlord told me that the townhouse was as quiet as a tomb. And I'll never forget that because while I lived there, the train some nights would run every 30 minutes to an hour. The whole apartment would shake and there was absolutely no way to sleep. It was extremely loud. This would happen during the day. It would happen during the night. And I literally thought I was going to lose my mind and just die there. And I thought, this is going to be my tomb. And I figured out that in that townhouse, in one particular room upstairs, if I hung up multiple blankets all over the walls and on the floor, that it would quiet and soften the external noises just enough so that my daughter could sleep through the night. Well, not the whole night, but most of the night. So her room looked like some weird blanket padded area. I don't even know how to explain it. And not only did we deal with the train, but we had to deal with a neighbor beside of me who lived there with his wife and his two daughters who were in high school. This man would sexually harass me as I would try to come and go. He would sit outside my door. His door was beside mine. He one time walked into my apartment while I was trying to carry groceries inside. And I had to try and get him out. He made a comment to me one time as I was trying to go to the grocery store with my daughter, that he had a fantasy about raping me and another young woman who lived one door down who had just had a baby a few months prior. So this was my new hell. I had panic attacks constantly. I was having to rent a vehicle at this point in time because in the prior 12 months to moving into this residence, I had taken my Blazer to 6 different repair maintenance appointments at 3 different locations, and nearly died prior to each 6 of these times that I had it towed to repair shops, because the car would lose power or it would malfunction, and I would be in the middle of traffic with my daughter in the car. So there were times where I was walking to the grocery store and being followed by people in a van, or being followed by at one time I had a man climb out of a dumpster and follow me. So I was renting a vehicle year round, which was extremely expensive, but the economy had collapsed and I could not get approved for a small loan, no matter how small it was, to get a used car. Nobody would lend me the money, even though I had proof of stable income, even though I had proof of how much I was paying in inflated rental vehicle costs. There was nothing. Nobody would do anything for me. So I lived there in hell once again for a long period of time. I think the entire time I lived there, I only recall one person ever visiting me. My anxiety was so severe from all of the trauma I had experienced up until that point that I could barely speak to anyone in real life. And my heart was so broken that these were my circumstances for my life and my daughter's life, all the while trying to pay my student loans. Okay, so these were some of the years where my student loans should have been in income-based repayment plans, at least the federal portion, because the private portion, for some reason, is not eligible for these types of debt relief programs for people who are going through severe hardships. But Navient and SallieMae were lying to me and misleading me and not letting me utilize this program. So finally, I got out of there. I had extra motivation after the state of Tennessee Child Support Department. A woman that worked in that office had hounded me to the point I was contemplating suicide. She had accused me of being a slut and said that I didn't know who my child's father was. And I explained to her I did know who he was, that he was an abusive and violent man, and I wanted to decline the state permission to pursue him, because if they pursued him, it would put my daughter and I in danger. Finally, I became so suicidal that I thought, I can't take it anymore, and maybe he will come after us and hurt us or kill us. Who cares? Maybe it'll put me out of my misery. I don't want this woman, of all people, to accuse me of being deserving of all the pain and suffering in my life. So I finally said, fine, go after him, whatever. You can't call me a whore because you'll get the DNA test and you'll see I'm telling the truth and that I know who he is. Got the DNA test and discovered that the state had sent me a document telling me his last known residence address. Called the state, said, why did you send me this? Found out that they had sent him our address, along with my daughter's social security number, which he had no right to know. He was not present at the birth. He had threatened to harm me while I was pregnant. His name was not even on the birth certificate because I was trying to protect us. So I moved again. And this time I was renting a small house behind a gas station. And all the while struggling with my health, all the while struggling with my student loans. And we rented this small house. This was the most expensive of any place I had rented. And sadly, I discovered very quickly that I had a stalker. When we lived here, we had no furniture. I remember we had a mattress to sleep on at one point. That was it. At one point, I had managed to buy a TV, but we never watched it. Um, I had become so accustomed to not having a TV that it was just stupid and pointless. So I turned right around and sold it so we would have money for groceries and things. Um, I felt ashamed to have a TV in a house where I couldn't have furniture or countless other things that we needed. So I had a stalker. The way I discovered this was one night, it had gotten dark, and I was holding my daughter and getting her ready for bed. And there was a very firm, loud knock on the door, which terrified me and scared me because I wasn't expecting anyone. And I could see a very tall, shadow-like figure through my bedroom, which faced the front of the house. And I said, I yelled something like, "Please go away. I'm calling the police." And this man's voice was yelling back to me, insisting that I open the door so he could give me his business card. And I was like, wow, this is really weird and it makes no sense. I continued to tell him to leave the premises, told him that what he was saying didn't make any sense, told him I feared for my life to leave. And finally he left. I called the police. You shouldn't have to yell and beg to get someone to leave your premises for a long period of time in the dark of night while you're home alone with your child. That's not normal. So then he started returning. He would come back at night once it was dark to the front door, to the windows of the house, trying to open the windows, trying to open the door. I called 911. I was holding my daughter. I remember thinking that at any moment my heart was just going to explode because it was beating and pounding so hard. I felt like I was losing consciousness. My vision was blurry. I felt like I was going to faint. And all I could think was, I'm holding my child. I had been trying for a long time to save up money to buy a gun and failed. I had no weapon to defend myself. And I could see the doorknob moving. And I just was telling the woman, please get here as fast as you can. He's gonna kick the door in or something any second, or a window or whatever. And finally the police arrived. He fled. He was never caught. To this day, I don't know who that was. After I moved out of there, I moved into an apartment that was down the road from there. Tried to put all that out of my mind. Tried to tell myself that that was never going to happen again. I lived in a ground floor apartment towards the back of an apartment complex, midway back. My upstairs neighbors that were directly above me were very kind, a young couple. They didn't have any children and they worked a lot and they were just very kind. But the other people in my building were not very kind. There was a young man that lived upstairs. He was very troubled. For example, one day someone was beating on my door very loudly during the night. And when I looked through the keyhole, I saw him and I recognized him. He was a minor. I knew his mother. He lived with her. I thought maybe there was a fire, and I opened the door and he had a baseball bat that was filled with nails in it. I thought I was about to be murdered. He thought that was funny. I had another neighbor who lived beside me. She and her husband had 2 small children. They were very troubled as well. They used drugs in the apartment. Everybody knew they were using drugs. It was very obvious. What concerned me was that there were 2 different times I came out and saw the infant crawling into the road and picked the child up and returned it to its mother. Reported this to the police. One time I saw the child eating a cigarette off of the ground. It was just really sad. But one night, she came to my door, and I thought that she was in trouble or needed help, and opened the door and discovered that they were wanting me to hide some of their drugs in my apartment for them. I declined. They became angry. And then the next week they retaliated against me by sending me life-threatening text messages. After this happened, I moved into a different building of the same apartment complex. And this one was upstairs, and it was actually in the same section of the building where the main office was located. I thought for sure I was going to be safe there. A young man that I had become an acquaintance with through a mutual friend would occasionally visit, very rarely though. He also had a girlfriend. He was much younger than me. I didn't think he posed me any sort of threat. I had his phone number saved in my phone. He had always said, if there's ice or snow or the weather's really bad and you need help getting to the store, let me know. I have 4-wheel drive. I completely trusted this person. One night he was going to stop by just to say hello for a little while, and he raped me. He raped me for hours, and my daughter was asleep in the room beside of mine. And while he raped me, I wondered if he would rape her too. I wondered if he was going to kill me when he was done. I wonder if he was going to kill her. At one point during the rape, I remember my rib cage felt like it was on fire because my muscles, it was like a burning sensation and pain that I've never experienced quite the same my entire life. But it was from my complete and total exhaustion of trying to hold his body up off of me while he was hurting me. And I thought my body's just going to give out. I'm going to pass out or something. I'm so exhausted. I can't take anymore. And I thought, I have to get him to finish. I have to get him to come. Maybe then he'll stop raping me. Maybe then I can get him to leave. So I begged him to stop and asked him, what can I do to help you finish? And then I did that. And then he fell asleep in my bed. So my next strategy was to pretend like everything that had happened was normal. I figured if I pretended everything that had happened was normal, I could get him to leave without hurting me or my daughter. So that was what I did. I started shaking his shoulder and imploring him, you really need to wake up. I have to get prepared early in the morning. I have to practice getting up early in the morning. My daughter's going to be starting kindergarten soon, and I have to get on a schedule. I really need to get ready. I need to get into routine. He finally came to and he left. I promptly sent him a text message the next day, basically telling him that if he promised to never speak to me or come to my residence ever again, and to leave my daughter and I alone. I would never tell anyone. And that my only request was that he seek help and he never hurt anyone the way he had hurt me. And he agreed. Then he told me I was good at it, implying getting raped. So he lived right down the road. And I was constantly having panic attacks when I thought I saw his vehicle. Anyway, not too long after this, my health reached a point that I was just not able to take care of myself and my daughter anymore. And there were also some other moving arounds that happened in the midst of all this. There was one point in the midst of all these moves where I had moved back in with my another family member for a while. And my daughter and I shared a tiny, tiny bedroom for 6 months there, which was very stressful. But anyway, I called my grandmother because she lived down the road, and I said, we need a place to stay. My daughter and I shared a tiny room there where, while living there, some really sad things happened. I was told I might have cancer, ovarian cancer. I was told I might have cancer in my gallbladder. I was told I might have another kind of cancer that causes multiple tumors all throughout your body. I was extremely ill. I was going to doctors and hospitals and getting second opinions and this, that, and the other. My body was being scanned and injected, and blood was being sampled, and fecal matter was being sampled, and urine was being sampled, and they were trying to figure out what was wrong with me. I was so, so sick and in so much pain. I was in and out of the ER. I found out I had an internal hemorrhaging, cysts on my ovaries. Anyway, it just went on and on and on. Finally, I sought out the OBGYN who had delivered my daughter many, many, many years ago, and went to see him. Only my current husband took me. For some reason, God sent him finally into my life to be an angel to save me from all the hell I had been through. I still don't understand how he found anything to love out of me when I was going through all that. But I was very good at trying to make myself look like everything was okay, as a survival tactic. Even if it was just for a few hours at a time or a few minutes at a time, try and make myself appear like I was okay, even though I wasn't. And I found out eventually that I had stage 4 complex endometriosis, which was followed by 3 major surgeries. Well, the first major surgery was when they discovered what I had. This kind of thing doesn't really show up on scans or ultrasounds of any kind. Some of the symptoms of it, like cysts, can show up, but you can't see the actual organ adhesions or organ damage or endometriosis growths typically on the kinds of scans that they were doing on my body previously. So I had major surgery in November of 2015, shortly after he and I had gotten married and moved in together. And I had another major surgery, the largest of all the surgeries, in November of 2016. And then in June of 2017, I had my last surgery. When you read the medical reports, the surgeon's reports, it says things like obliterated organs, dense adhesions, aggressive return of growths, cystic masses, more cystic masses, more cystic masses. I mean, my insides were just an absolute mess. And my surgeon said that I was in the top 2 worst cases he had ever personally witnessed in his entire career. So after my last surgery, I I had the best possible chance of maybe having some semblance of a normal life. But I was really scared. You know, you live in constant fear. Is it going to grow back? Is it going to come back? You know, I'm doing all the things that all the latest researchers say that you should do. But what if it comes back again? What if it just keeps coming back and back and back? And so far, it's not come back. So here I am, April 3rd, 2018. Our bankruptcy attorney had informed us that that the soonest we would be legally allowed to attempt to get a first-time home buyer's loan would be August of 2019. This is something that I've been dreaming of, as you can imagine, my entire life. Finding a piece of land with a modest home that I can fix and repair and know that those repairs will be staying fixed and repaired because I do them and I won't have to leave. Having a piece of land where I can have privacy and install security, where I can feel safe, means the world to me, as you can imagine. First-time home buyers loans are really helpful to people who are trying to recover from serious financial problems or anything horrific like I've been through, because they don't require a down payment. And so you basically go from paying massive amounts of rent to landlords all of your life, like I have since I was about 18, I suppose. And I'm now going to be 34 in August. Instead of paying rent to landlords, you just talk to the mortgage lender and your real estate agent and you say, I would like a first-time home buyer's loan. This is my budget. This is what I need my monthly mortgage payment to be. It needs to be the same as my rent. If we do that, we can stay living within our means on our current budget. It's just instead of paying a landlord every month, we'd be paying off a mortgage. We'd actually be accomplishing something. We'd actually be acquiring an asset that we could pass on to my daughter one day when we die. She would have a chance at owning property, at having stability in her life, at being safe, at having a brighter future than I have. At learning from my mistakes and learning from my receipt of abuse. Before any of this ever happened, before I got pregnant with my daughter while I was still in college, when I finally left college, I was not able to complete my bachelor's degree program. I was going to an extremely expensive school. I was married to a man who was very abusive. He had a drug problem and a drinking problem, and he threatened to kill me on a regular basis. He was physically abusive. He was sexually abusive. And extremely emotionally abusive. And upon leaving him, I had sought out mental help, and my therapist diagnosed me with post-traumatic stress disorder. So I've been diagnosed by many doctors and professionals over the course of my life with PTSD. And yeah, it's just something that I deal with. And I won't even get into the things that happened to me when I was a small child. I am a person who has survived what I think is probably an abnormal amount of suffering while simultaneously always, always trying to do the right thing. And it shocks me that I live in a country that's supposed to be the greatest in the world, and I spent about 6 hours making phone calls in the past 7 days to a company named Navient, where half of the people I've talked to have told me that they are answering the phone in the Philippines, and they're utilizing laws in the United States which enable predatory lending of student loan debt and which disable the dismissal of student loan debt in bankruptcies, even for the most deserving, desperately needy people. Student loan debt is one of the only kinds of debt that exists in the United States that is nearly completely impossible to dismiss in a bankruptcy, no matter what horrific things you've been through in your life. And that's wrong. We have a president right now who campaigned on promises to bring back jobs to the US. I say it should be illegal for Navient or any other student loan company to give jobs to people in the Philippines, to enforce predatory lending scams on suffering students in the United States. That should be illegal. They're manipulating the laws in the US to oppress and hurt people, good working people who pay their taxes and who do their best to take care of their children, who choose to raise and love and support their children even though everyone else has basically left you for dead. I did all the right things. I did all the things I was supposed to do, right? I tried to pay my bills, tried to pay them on time. No matter what horrible things were happening to me, I tried to take care of my child. I tried to give her a better life than my own. I did everything I was supposed to do. And this is how my country treats me. But it's okay for our president to cause billions of dollars in losses to shareholders because he files bankruptcy multiple times, one of which was for a casino. Can someone please explain to me how when a man starts a gambling business in the US and racks up millions and billions of dollars in debt, he can use bankruptcy laws to get out of it and still come out a billionaire and become elected president of the United States? But when a woman is abused by men, gets a disease that only women can get, works all her life, raises her child alone, and gets no child support from the man who fathered her child because he just fucking doesn't care and he's an asshole. Why is that woman not allowed to dismiss her debt in bankruptcy and get a new start at life? People like me are what it's supposed to mean to be an American, because I have survived hell and back. I never give up. I'm a loving mother. I'm absolutely incredible. So why can I not be treated equally or fairly in this country? I guess instead of trying to invest in my education, I should have tried to start a crappy casino and ran for president. I wish somebody would have told me that. Honestly, I don't have a problem with Donald Trump running a casino and using bankruptcy laws and saying, you know what, my business didn't do well. I honestly don't care. What I have a problem with is that I'm being treated differently. And it's not just me, it's millions of other people who are in the similar situations as mine all over the US. I'm not alone in these types of experiences. 1 in 10 women is diagnosed with endometriosis in her lifetime. Yes, the severity of my case is more rare for it to be that severe, but that's a lot of people. Do you think it's possible that the student loan corporations are designed to take advantage of poor first-time college goers who are desperate to better themselves, who have no experience borrowing money, who don't know anything about money at all, and just strap them up with as much debt as possible because, one, they're too poor to hire an attorney to fight back once they realize they've been scammed, and 2, they are in the pocket of the government and they are manipulating and pulling strings so that they can just make a large portion of society slaves to debt. This should be illegal to disperse in the first place. I'm going to read to you some of the details that are in the current class action lawsuits against Navient. And I would like to encourage other people who borrow money, who made the mistake of borrowing money to try and get an education, to let people know when you call Navient, whether you talk to somebody in our country or some other country, let them know how Navient has hurt you. Let them know that the CEO of Navient is just a one man. And he can't sit in his mansion and collect on billions of dollars in subprime loans, in predatory loans. He couldn't do it. It's not physically possible. The only reason that CEO is able to torture, torment, and destroy lives is because he hires thousands of people all over the world to handle phone calls and paperwork for him. So you're basically working for the equivalent of a gang member or a drug dealer. He is what the Bible refers to as a violent oppressor. And in Proverbs, a violent oppressor is described as someone who oppresses people out of greed. And it says it makes God's stomach turn as if to vomit. I'm going to read you something else really quick here. This is also from the Bible. The Bible says in Deuteronomy 15:1-2, which the Bible's not perfect, but I think this is a great philosophy. At the end of every 7 years, you must cancel debts. This is how it is to be done. Every creditor shall cancel the loan he has made to his fellow Israelite, He shall not require payment from his fellow Israelite or brother, because the Lord's time for canceling debts has been proclaimed. I don't think it takes a genius to figure out it is immoral, it is wrong, it is criminal to do to people what has been done to me regarding my student loans. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4 of the United States Constitution says, the Congress shall have power to establish uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States. Why can someone get credit card debt dismissed? Why can someone have a casino that fails and those debts be considered honorable and dismissible? But a woman who suffers abuse from men, who suffers a disease only women can get, why is that woman not allowed an equal opportunity to have her debts dismissed? Why is that? Is it because I'm a woman? Or is it because I've lived in a level of poverty where I can't afford to hire an attorney to fight back? And you're making billions off of hurting people like me? In one of my recent phone calls to Navient, I was particularly stressed because they're trying to increase the monthly payment by hundreds of dollars on my private student loans. The federal ones are protected by an income-based repayment plan, which I'm pretty sure was something created by the Obama administration. It's a debt relief program. So those are genuinely based on income. The problem, though, is that the private student loans are not protected by those laws, so they can basically just do almost anything they want to do to me. I tried to ask them, well, if you're raising it to $300 a month now, can you give me a quote if I find some way miraculously to pay this $300 a month? In the past, they've tried to raise it even higher. I said, if I find some way to make this payment and I pay it on time regularly, can you tell me what's going to happen exactly 2 years from now? Will my payment amount be the same, or are you going to try and increase it again? They said, we can't tell you that. I said, what do you mean you can't tell me that? It's your company. You can't tell me what the terms of repayment are? No. No was their answer. How is a person supposed to even attempt to financially plan when you're being treated like someone who owes money to the mob? I contacted our bankruptcy attorney today in a message and said, here's what's going on. Can you please offer me any advice? What should I do? So here is what the article says about Navient lawsuits, what student loan borrowers need to know. Consumers can file complaints. We all know how helpful that is. Check their credit reports for errors, which they're all full of, and educate themselves about all of their repayment options. This is an article on nerdwallet.com. It was written October 5th, 2017 by an author, Teddy Nickel. Okay, so this is a really short article. I'm going to read it and I'm going to explain to you the things in this lawsuit that they've done to me specifically. Navient Corporation, the nation's largest student loan servicer, is facing 4 lawsuits alleging that it harmed student loan borrowers throughout the repayment process. Pennsylvania's Attorney General was the latest to file a suit, which came in early October. The U.S. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and the Illinois and Washington Attorneys General sued Navient in January. Among other things, the CFPB, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, alleges that since at least January 2010, Navient misallocated payments, they did that to me, steered struggling borrowers toward multiple forbearances instead of income-driven repayment plans. They did that to me for 5 years, and they admitted it on the phone in one of my phone calls last week. So basically, for 5 years, I should have been in an income-driven repayment plan, but instead, they were making me pay, or they were putting me in a forbearance, which increased the capitalized interest that was accumulating on my loans. They also provided unclear information about how to re-enroll in income-driven repayment plans and how to qualify for a co-signer release. They've done both of these things to me. The issue of unclear information about how to re-enroll in income-driven repayment plans, it's always unclear. It's a battle every single time. I can actually show you right now. Not only are they difficult on the phone, but the actual document that you have to print out, fill out, and send has the wrong address on it as of today, April 3rd, 2018, of where you're supposed to send it. I will show that to you. It should be right here. Wait, it's in a stack of paper on the table. I'm going to grab it and I will show it to you. Okay, so this is the first page of the income-driven repayment plan renewal paperwork. And up here I have notated per agent, send to P.O. Box 9750, Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, 18773-970. That is because when you actually turn to the instructions page in the packet, which is back here, on page 5, it says section 7, where to send the completed form. And it says return the completed form and any documentation to Navient, Department of Education Loan Servicing, P.O. Box 9760, which, as you can tell, is different from 9750. And I had recalled having a problem with this in the past. And so when I was on the phone, I said, can you please confirm what address I need to send this to? I've had a problem with this in the past. And then upon me asking, they then told me that, yeah, the address is still wrong on the form. I need to send it to a different address and tell me what address to write down. But you can see here that this is the address that they said not to send it to on the phone, but it's on the forms, which they will very intensely try to convince you to get these forms on their website, print them out, and do them by yourself. They're incredibly confusing, and they have the wrong information on them. There are staff members that I spoke with last week that admitted that for 5 years I should have been in the income-driven repayment plan. So that plan should have started 5 years earlier than they allowed me to start it. I can remember calling and asking about this plan once I had heard about it, and they would tell me it didn't exist, that it wasn't available, that I wasn't eligible. And then in the years prior to that, I would call and just say things like, look, I'm a struggling single mother. I don't get any child support. My income is low. I'm having a difficult time in my life with my health, with my circumstances. I really need to get these payments as low as possible. What programs am I eligible for? What can help me? Can we pause payments? Can I lower payments? What can we do? I'm in serious trouble. I will provide you with proof of my income. I will provide you with proof of my expenses. I will provide you with printouts of my bank account. I will provide you with printouts of my taxes. And I did those things. I provided them with those things many times. So their staff was fully aware, with proof in hand, of all of those factors, and hid from me the income repayment plan, lied to me about it, and now is admitting it. And I still can't get them. I said, after they admitted it on the phone, I said, well, I'm glad that you see what was done wrong. I said, can you retroactively give me credit for those 5 years in the program so that it will be completed on time rather than 5 years late, regarding the federal loans? And they said, oh, no, I don't have the power to do that. And I said, well, how do I get that done? And they said, I would either have to hire an attorney, which of course they know I don't have money for, and or my other option was going to be to write a complaint letter to Navient. So it's not good enough that we went through the details on the phone and they confirmed their error. Now I have to write a letter to them explaining to them their error, and then probably they're not going to fix anything. But if I keep building this website and keep making videos about what's happening, maybe they will. Maybe they'll fix it. Maybe they'll finally dismiss these debts that should have been dismissed in my bankruptcy. You know, something that I ask their customer service people is, why did your company refuse to dismiss my student loan debt? And they never have an answer. Sometimes they'll try to make you feel ashamed. Sometimes they'll try to tell you, we have helped you so much. We've helped you this way and that way and this other way, blah, 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 blah. And it's just garbage and lies. You know, oh, you raised my interest rate. You lied to me about what programs I was eligible for debt relief when I was going through absolute hell. That's help. Is that what help is? You make the individual moral decision as a corporation to enslave people to debts that you know they can't pay off, rather than have them rightfully dismissed in bankruptcy filings. What about any of that is right or fair or moral or correct or even good business practice? One of the arguments that some of them say that are particularly cruel is they'll say, you knew what you were getting into when you first borrowed these loans. And my response is, I absolutely did not. I had never borrowed money before the first time I got a student loan. My financial advisors were all working in the interest of the student loan companies and in the college. They were not working in the interest of actually advising me on making safe, low-risk financial decisions. They were out for profit. They didn't care if they destroyed my life. Looking back, knowing what I know now, it's so shocking what they did to me, how they took advantage of me during a desperate and weak and young, inexperienced time in my life, a time very shortly after the death of my father. That they would do that to a young girl. That they would continue to do that to a woman who was suffering, who they knew was suffering medically, emotionally. It's a level of evil and greed that's one of the greatest in the whole world, that you would try to enslave a person to a massive debt their whole entire life, no matter what horror they have been through. And I'm at a point now where, you know, it's just, I've asked Navient, well, okay, when I log into my account, it appears to be 2 private student loans. Will you consolidate those? Will you give me a lower interest rate? Will you give me a lower monthly payment? Can you give me something in writing, in black and white, send it to me in the mail, and let's come up with some sort of agreement where it says, this is how much you're going to pay per month for the life of the loan, and this is when it's going to be paid off. And promise that you won't ever raise the rate, or promise that you won't ever raise how much you ask for per month. Will you make any kind of agreement that would allow me to attempt to financially plan, to attempt to be a homeowner one day, to attempt to provide a better future for my child? The answer is no, 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 and no. I just don't understand how someone could choose to work for a company that is hurting people. So many people like me, so many women like me. If I could go back in time and things could be different, these are the things that I wish were different. These are the things that I hope will be different for future generations. I hope, number one, that if a student goes to attempt to get loans of any type, federal or private, for things related to being a student, that they will be required by law to seek out 10 other less expensive schools and do financial aid packages with all 10 of those schools. I hope that the law will change so that anytime someone is considering borrowing money for education purposes, that when they fill out paperwork for a semester regarding loan money, that both federal and private loans have to be combined into one total number along with a printed out payment plan that says this is the maximum your interest rate could be, this is the lowest it could be, it's going to fluctuate, this is how many years it will take you to pay this off at this amount, so that they're not piecing it off into all these little different pieces, which is what they do. They piece it off into little pieces, and it tries to give you the impression that the risk is not so much. I wish that every student who was considering borrowing money for education would have been and would now be forced to be given a big red piece of paper with a stop sign on it that said, you cannot dismiss student loan debt in a bankruptcy. We don't care if you're raped. We don't care if you're robbed. We don't care if you're carjacked. We don't care if you and your child are left for dead. We don't care if you're homeless. We don't care if you're told you have cancer. We don't care if you have 3 major surgeries to save your life and you lose everything that you have. You can't dismiss these in a bankruptcy. Only people who run casinos that fail, or people who have bad luck at business, or whatever, get to use bankruptcies in our country. Honestly, women should be told you have a 1 in 10 chance of developing endometriosis in your life. And this could stop you or prevent you from completing your education or for being gainfully employed so that you can pay for anything you borrow. That should be something you should have to sign your acknowledgement of. There should be other statistics that you should be forced to sign. You should know what your chances of getting cancer are. You should know what your chances of getting raped are while you're in college. These are statistics that especially women should be forced to sign a paper acknowledging that they're aware of, because people who loan money and banks and big corporations, they study these statistics. They're aware of these risks, but they don't care. They loan this money out knowing that they're letting people borrow money who've never borrowed money before, who don't have financial experience, who've been poor all their lives. They're betting on the fact that you're poor, you're going to stay poor, you can't afford an attorney, you don't know your rights, and you don't know the tools that you need to fight back. And even if you do fight back, you're never going to accomplish anything because you're this big and they are like this. One of the richest companies in the whole world. So what can I even do at this point? I can try desperately to pay on time what they're asking me to pay, because they've told me that after my long phone interview, hours-long phone interview today, giving them all of my financial data, which is all backed up by documentation, that even though they admit I cannot afford a payment increase, that they're going to implement one, and that they want to know how am I going to pay for it. I said, I don't know, I'm going to have to, because if I don't, you will destroy my credit and I won't ever be able to buy a house. I won't ever be able to get a mortgage, and I'm going to be renting for the rest of my life, and so will my daughter. And they know that somebody like me would rather die than see that future happen for their child. Why? There's a website that the government manages that's informative about student loans. And in one part it says that unless, excuse me, it says that unless the courts decide that forcing a person to keep their student loans is going to cause undue hardship, then they can't dismiss the debt. The student has to keep the student loan debt. So let me ask you this. United States government, after watching this video of what I have experienced in my life, do you think that the courts have decided to cause me undue hardship? Me, my little girl, my family? Do you think that sticking me with these loans, even after all I've been through, even after filing bankruptcy, do you not think this is undue hardship? You stuck me with it. That means this is hardship that you believe my family deserves. You have sent the message loud and clear to me that my family deserves more hardship. That is your words. Those are the words of the government of the United States of America to me. My family deserves more hardship based on the ruling in court that was implemented. I am deserving as a woman, my child, her future. Does that sound moral? Does that sound ethical? Or does that sound criminal? Does that sound evil, greedy, cruel? Does it sound like undue hardship? So the last thing I'm going to do is share some numbers with you guys about how student loans grow. If the seeds I planted in my garden grew as fast as the seeds of debt with Navient and SallieMae, I would be a very wealthy woman. Okay, so we'll just do a quick overview. Private signature student loan 2 ending in 2999. The original principal as of August 21st, 2006 was $8,000. This was money that I should have never borrowed, and it should have never been loaned to me. Currently, that debt has ballooned into $10,471.23. Loan number ending in number 2981, private signature student loan with Navient. The original principal was $16,000. That was money that should have never been loaned to me. That was as of August 19th, 2005. Today, April 3rd, 2018, it is $22,028.60. The next one. Now, this is one of the federal loans. The first two were private. This one is protected by the program created under the Obama administration for debt relief for federal student loans. So right now, I don't have to pay on this. And this is also one of the loans that for 5 years, I was tricked into not being in the program of debt relief that I needed. So I'm trying to fight to get this program retro-dated so that it will be complete 5 years earlier instead of 5 years late. So this loan ballooned from $7,850 to $24,246. And the other one in this category started out as $8,036 and has ballooned to $16,306.92. But the private student loans are the ones that really concern me because they're not protected by the income-based repayment plans. And let's talk about payments. I have records of payments. You can see lines of payments where I've made. Let's see. Payment, $101.70. Payment, $48.34. Payment, $50.10. Payment, $105.39. Payment, $50.10. Payment, $105.39. Payment, $50.09. Payment, $105.40. Payment, $105.39. Payment, $50.10. Payment, $49.95. Payment, $105.54. Payment, $32.09. Payment, $67.91. Payment, $68.18. Payment, $144.29. Payment, $137.53. Payment, $64.99. Payment, $69.17. Payment, $146.39. 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 Payment, $146.39. Payment, $69.17. Payment, $122.48. Payment, $259.67. Payment, $41.50. Payment, $87.31. Payment, $41.50. Payment, $87.31. Payment, $41.50. Payment, $87.31. Payment, $87.31. Payment, $41.50. Payment, $41.50. Payment, $87.31. Payment, $41.50. Payment, $87.31. Payment, $41.50. Payment, $87.31. Payment, $87.31. Payment, $41.50. Payment, $87.31. Payment, $41.50. Payment, $41.50. Payment, $87.31. Payment, $41.50. Payment, $87.31. Payment, $87.31. Payment, $41.50. Payment, $87.31. Payment, $41.50. Payment, $41.50. Payment, $87.31. Payment, $41.50. Payment, $87.31. Payment $39.42. Payment $82.94. Payment $86.68. Payment $38.58. Payment $5. Payment $5. Payment $79.78. Payment $167.84. Payment $3.39. Payment $1.61. I can remember why I made those tiny payments. Payment $1.61. Payment $3.39. Payment $87.31. Payment $41.50. Payment $41.50. Payment $87.31. Payment $41.50. Payment $87.31. Payment $157.67. Payment $74.95. Payment $8.05. Payment $16.95. Payment $63.58. Payment $30.23. Payment $3.22. Payment $6.78. Payment $8.05. Payment $16.95. Payment $41.50. Payment $87.31. Payment $41.58. Payment $87.46. Payment $87.47. Payment $41.58. Payment $87.47. Payment $41.58. Payment $31.79. Payment $32.82. Payment $32.82. Payment $33.89. Payment $13.15. Excuse me, 50 cents. Payment $13.94. Payment $87.47. Payment $41.58. Payment $13.94. Payment $14.39. Payment $37.17. Payment $38.38. Payment $87.70. Payment $41.69. Payment $50.46. Payment $23.99. Payment $64.61. Payment $66.71. Payment $87.70. Payment $41.69. Payment $2.63. Payment $2.71. Payment $91.27. Payment $43.39. Payment $68.14. Payment $70.35. Payment $87.69. Payment $41.69. Payment $87.69. Payment $41.69. Payment $87.69. Payment $41.69. Payment $87.71. Payment $41.70. Payment $87.71. Payment $41.70. Payment $4.74. Payment $2.26. Payment $87.71. Payment $41.70. Payment $87.71. Payment $41.70. Payment $87.89. Payment $41.79. Payment $87.53. Payment $41.61. Payment $87.77. Payment $41.73. Payment $13.56. Payment $6.44. Payment $10.14. Payment $9.86. Payment $88.11. Payment $41.89. 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 Payment $88. I'm going to stop saying the cents, okay? Payment $88. Payment $41. Payment $13, $6, $88, $41, $18, $8, $67, $32, $54, $25, $54, $25, $54, $25, $88, $41, $13, $6, $10, $4, $6, $3, $101, $48, $179, $85, $98, $46, $67, $32, $164, $77, $14, $7, $61, $28, $86, $40, $104, $49, $86, $40, $86, $40, $138, $65, $33, $16, $6, $3, $79, $35, $6, $5, $12, $12, $133, $118, $20, $83, $39, $50, $50, $50, $50, $200. This is supposed to be a complete history of every payment that I made going back to 2005 on all of these loans in question, but it doesn't look complete to me. Some of the amounts don't even look right, but they something that they do is that they don't always apply payments the way you think they will, and they don't always apply your payments the way you instruct them to. That's one of the things they've been sued for. So no one can look at this and say, I have not tried. I have absolutely no reason to be ashamed, and neither do really anyone that owes money to these companies. They have no business loaning out the amounts of money that they loan, and the only reason that they're doing it is because the laws keep people trapped with debt no matter what hardship they face, whether they deserve the hardship or not. It's just, Navient is evil. There's just no other way to say it.